So, James, let's go for your number 3.
Okay, well, my third pick, and I haven't gone in any particular order. My third pick is someone who I think we're beginning to see be missed within the company massively, and I think that we all took him for granted, and that's The Undertaker.
Good call.
Now,
Good call.
You know, think back when he debuts with Brother Love in 1990, you get that immediate hush from the crowds.
Yeah.
They build him up well. He eventually fights Hogan. Seems absolutely unbeatable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And hats off to Mark Calloway. I mean, anybody could have been given that gimmick, and at the time there were a lot of gimmicks being given, and they could have fucked that. They could have fucked that up. They could have really fucked that up. But
in that era, you had some shocking gimmicks brought out.
The mannerisms in the ring. I mean, if you go back and do yourself a favour and do this, if you go back and watch the evolution of The Undertaker, when he first starts, he is kind of like a zombie, the way he is.
Oh, yeah. Just the way he moves. Completely void of emotion.
But what's so fantastic about that is he's such a threat at the same time.
Yeah.
Because when you think of a zombie, you think of, well, someone will just beat the fuck out of him. Do you know what I mean? But he's such a threat.
Yeah.
And the evolution, as you move on, you then... I mean, he comes in as a heel. He immediately changes to face. And I'm going to test everyone here because I believe that he turned face in a really mediocre way. I think he turned face because the Berserker, if anyone remembers the Berserker, do you remember the Viking?
Yeah.
Berserker.
Used to walk around going, huss.
Yeah. I think he fucking turns face because the Berserker went to attack him with a sword.
Oh, I don't remember that.
It's in the back of my mind, and I'm sure that is the reason that he turned face.
All right.
That everyone got behind him. Suddenly he was cheered because he was fighting the Berserker, and the Berserker actually... Because he used to come down as a Viking with a fucking shield and a sword.
That's right, yeah. Hat with the 2 horns as well.
And he had Mr. Fuji with him.
Yeah, I never understood that.
Yeah, and Mr. Fuji, I believe, instructed Berserker to use the sword on The Undertaker.
Oh, shit.
And the crowd, they just suddenly organically started cheering.
There it is.
That's a little bit... That's a little bit for something for people to look up on. I think that's the reason. I certainly know that by WrestleMania 8 against Jake Roberts, who's being cheered.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I
and Jake Roberts
attacked... that at yours.
Yeah, Jake Roberts attacked him. Do you remember? He put his fucking hand in the casket and smashed him with chest. But I don't think that's where he turns face.
Right.
But anyway... Going on back onto The Undertaker, we have to look at the longevity, the changes
like you
that
said,
he made.
Evolutionary process of his
character. I mean, even in the mid-90s, you look at, he was up against all these giants and he had to work his arse off to try and get something out of them.
On that note, we are absolutely vetoing and voiding anything to do with the giant Gonzalez because that was beyond fucking dreadful.
Do you know where he come from?
Somewhere that should never be remembered.
He come from Argentina. He was a basketball player and he was picked up by WCW. If you want to go and have a look at some
was he a basketball player? Because he could barely move around the ring. He was so stiff.
Mate, he played for Argentina.
Well,
I've never heard the Argentinian basketball team. But anyway, he come from basketball and... He was picked up, I believe, or the first time I saw him was in WCW's El Gigante.
Okay.
And he was friends with Sting.
Really?
Yeah. In a really weird sort of faction, face faction. I can't even remember who was in it.
Is this Sting with the bleach blonde hair?
Oh, yeah.
How's that going to work?
Oh, don't ask me. I remember one time they had to have him handcuffed by ringside.
What, the giant?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, in a match. And he fucking got out of it somehow and helped Sting. It's another one of them like RoboCop. I don't know if anyone remembers that. Oh,
let's not even go there.
Well,
there's a route for a topic to come up later on in life.
So anyway, moving on with the Undertaker.
Yeah, well, I've got a massive question to ask you about Undertaker as well. Right.
Do it now.
For his whole evolutionary process, and let's face it, there were so many different aspects to do with the Undertaker. We've got like the American Badass, the Ministry.
I'm not going to bring them up now, by the way. I'm just going to let. The Undertaker is such a legend. I think that most of our listeners are probably fans, and they do know the evolution of the Undertaker.
God, yeah. My question is,
okay,
and I know this is going to be tough because he has had a career like nobody else will ever have or will ever get.
Yep.
Can you pick out one match that stands out for you of The Undertaker over any else?
It's going to be a shocker because it's going to go on my childhood.
Yeah.
And a lot of people shit on it, but the feud with Yokozuna, the casket match at the Royal Rumble.
Good call.
Yokozuna was absolutely unbeatable.
Yeah.
In that period, apart from a little silly thing that happened with Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 9. He was absolutely unbeatable, and he come up against The Undertaker, and this is what I love about wrestling. You had these two characters, I think it was at the Survivor Series 93, and they suddenly met in the ring. And the whole crowd just goes, whoa, what the fuck? They both get DQ'd and counted out, I think, and then you go on to the Royal Rumble. They have this casket match where you really don't know.
Massive as well.
You really don't know which way it's going to go. I mean, the ending's a little bit hoo-ha. You know, you had 10 heels come in to help Yokozuna, and they stuff The Undertaker in the casket. And I don't know if you remember, but he appears on the Titantron. Yeah. Do you remember that? And from inside the casket. Yeah. As a kid...
Was that not the first time that they represented The Undertaker as dying?
Yeah, I believe so.
And then brought him back as like the dead man, basically.
Yeah, I think so. Right. Yeah.
I can't believe I remember that.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I know that everyone's probably going to shit on that because they're going to go Shawn Michaels WrestleMania 25, the Bad Blood Hell in a Cell match with Shawn.
Mankind, Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, Mankind's Hell in a Cell, things like that. But we're talking about how it impacted us, and I think that when I was a kid watching that, I was so in awe of it. It was it was just fucking awesome.
So I've got to be honest, mine is, and you of all people know I love Mick Foley.
Oh yeah.
He is.
I do. The reason I didn't pick Mick Foley, by the way, guys, because I knew Stuart was going to fucking put it on there.
Yeah, very true. You're just giving away my other pick.
Sorry, you can go with that next.
My absolute favourite Undertaker match was, personally, I think it was his worst character persona, which was as Big Evil. Yeah. But my favourite match that The Undertaker was part of was an episode of SmackDown, and I think you know where I'm going with this. I know where
you're going. Does it involve a ladder?
It was the ladder match against Jeff Hardy. Yeah. And that, I think, was the Kickstarter for Jeff Hardy's solo run. Because he put it was early on. And Undertaker was never afraid of putting people over. He was always been that top guy that has put people over. And that, as an adult, and like same for yourself, I love, as a kid, I loved The Undertaker. He was just like the first captivating wrestler as a kid, other than Jake the Snake Roberts, for obvious reasons.
What an absolute fucking promo, master, absolute master.
But it was that, and it wasn't main event of that episode of SmackDown. It was the main event, Undertaker as Big Evil versus Jeff Hardy, who were just about on the verge of splitting up the Hardy Boys and Lita. Gave him, was given this opportunity to do a title match against the Dead Man, and it was, I think, as far as how shows go or tape shows go, as far as the main event goes, and I put 90% of this work down to Jim Ross. That man knows how to commentate a match, and he knows how to make it an emotional moment.
It's a great match.
And hearing him scream, "Climb, kid, climb." Yeah. And that final moment at the end where Undertaker, and I'm pretty sure it was, broke kayfabe, came back into the ring, held his arm up after Jeff Hardy screaming, "You haven't broken me, I'm still standing," and has literally got about a teaspoon's worth of energy left in him, or life.
If I remember, I think it's during the time.
Yeah, the tail end, coming to,
as I remember, I think it's about the time of the Ruthless Aggression era where Vince is challenging everyone to step up.
Yeah.
So I think because the Undertaker was walking around the locker room, and I think there was something going on where the Undertaker was taking on younger challengers.
Yeah.
Because there was the Kurt Angle and John Cena thing, and I think that was around about that time. I think it was about 2000.
The Ruthless Aggression.
About 2002.
Yeah.
But you've just made my argument for me for the Undertaker, because listen to the two matches that we've just put together there.
Yeah.
Right? We have put a 500-pound Yokozuna in a casket match alongside a ladder match.
A 12-stone Jeff Hardy.
With a 12-stone Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
And that's the longevity. That's how...
Yeah. Like you said, you've got two different aspects of the spectrum there. You've got Yokozuna, who's quite possibly one of the biggest guys, size-wise.
Also one of the best big guys ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Who was not an acrobatic guy. He was a powerhouse. He wasn't the quickest guy ever. But he was an unstoppable machine against Jeff Hardy, who's quite possibly one of the biggest risk takers. He's not got the greatest set of moves, but he is a high flyer well, I don't know. You'll never get another one quite like him, to be fair. Both of them, for that matter, for the styles they do. That's two totally different aspects that we've both looked at.
Yeah.
And it's all for the right reasons, And I knew this was going to be a tough question to ask you, and I'm genuinely fucking chuffed I did, because that's not the answer I was expecting.
No, I tend to go on emotion with wrestling, and
that's exactly why I picked the Jeff Hardy match.
Yeah, so I go Yokozuna on that. So
awesome.
Just to finish up with the Undertaker, I don't think I have to go through his evolution. I think it's pretty well known. All I'm going to say is he debuts in 1990 at the Survivor Series. He ends his career at WrestleMania 36. I know. He ends his career at WrestleMania 36 against AJ Styles in the Boneyard match. Unbelievable career.
Yeah, like I said, you're never going to get anyone that's going to have that career, and I don't think there's ever going to be another one that will ever even come close to it. You can have all these, everyone else that's coming up that's got 14 titles, 15, 16, whatever records you want to break, longest running title holder of all time. Are they the Undertaker? No.